Good evening and good to have you with us in the weekend edition of the Urban Debate. Over 24 hours have gone by since a blast took place in the heart of the national capital. And tonight, viewers, we are going to get you all the angles related to the investigation. Last night we told you why this blast was so significant. Even if, thankfully, we had no injuries, it was still to be taken very, very seriously and not just as a mischievous attempt. Tonight, we bring you the multiple angles, we break down the evidence and the significance of that evidence, what the police is doing right now to track down people who are behind this blast. Key evidence recovered includes a mangled battery at the blast site, ball bearings, things that will give you an indication of what kind of an explosive device was used and the level of expertise involved. We also know that a red scarf was found at the blast site and will now be looked into to see if it is in any way linked to those who planted this bomb. Initial probe has thrown up two suspects who were spotted on CCTV around the blast site area. The cab driver who ferried these suspects was interrogated today. Delhi police has also been recreating the crime scene with 3D mapping technique. I'm going to explain to you what all this really means, and to help me do that, we also have two special guests joining us this evening. Our managing editor Vinay Tiwari and Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, an expert when it comes to investigating crimes, joins us this evening. Good evening to both of you. But first up, I want to go across to Alok, who joins us with all the details. Alok is the one who's been bringing us these details of the investigation. Alok, let's talk about the crime scene and what was done at the crime scene by the investigators today.
Yes, Tanvi, in fact, it was an important day because yesterday, the way this incident happened, now today it was the time for the investigators to start their investigation. Today, in fact, first the special cell took over the probe and they registered the case of the Explosive Act and also the Damage to Property Act. Now, the team was formed and the several teams also visited this spot. I am standing at the same spot a few meters away from that place where the bomb was planted. Now, just a few minutes ago, the NSG team, which is an expert team, to conduct the inquiry about what kind of bomb, the component of the bomb was what kind of, that has also gone, that has just gone back. But as you said that it's a 3G technique, the Delhi Police Special Cell used this technique to get the idea of what kind of place it is and how it was a recreation of that scene that they made. It was a technique which was used in 2019. There was a crime scene happened where the fire incident happened. 43 persons had lost their lives, and at that place this 3G technique was used by the Delhi Police Crime Branch. Now today the special cell, which is a special anti-terror unit, because they are well equipped, they got this technique. So definitely it will help in the probe of the Delhi Police as well. So Delhi Police has tried to get as much as evidences, collect as much as evidences as of now from this particular spot. Back to you.
Yes, and some of those important evidence, of course, the scarf, the ball bearing, the mangled battery that has been found, and the pictures that you've got for us, Alok. And I actually want to also now emphasize on these pictures that we've got, where you can see that the blast occurred on one side of the road, and the impact was actually witnessed on the other side of the road. And anybody who knows this area well will know that there's quite a bit of distance. It's a wide road, which means that even though there were no fatalities, the intensity wasn't that low itself. Alok, stay with me. Now, as we stay on these pictures as well, let me go across to Vinay on what these pictures tell us, Vinay. The evidence recovered, what do they tell you in your expertise and in your experience, what does it tell us about those behind the blast?
Well, I mean, we have an expert on the panel. That's Mr. Azad. I'm not the expert, but I can tell you from, having seen a few terror sites in the past and the investigations, I can tell you that there are, the first clue of who could have done it and the kind of assembly of the device does give a very important lead to the investigators. And for me, there are three things that are, very important from what the investigators have so far shared with us. Number one, as you rightly pointed out, the fact is that the bomb was placed on one side of the road and the damage to the car windows is on the other side, with the cars were parked on the other side. Now, APJ Abdul Kalam Road is approximately 65 feet wide, and it should tell you that the radius of the impact of the explosion was about 60 feet or so. The second important thing which one can see from those images is the recovery of some ball bearings. Now, why is that significant? Because in in many Indian cities, in previous terrorist strikes, whether it was Delhi, it was Hyderabad in Lumbini Park or the Gokul Chaat Bhandar blasts, or in Gujarat, in several instances, serial blasts that happened in Ahmedabad, even some of the explosions in Bengaluru and in Bombay, the saboteurs have preferred using an improvised explosive device which was packed with either iron filings or iron nails or even ball bearings. So this is something that is a hallmark of a certain kind of a group. It requires a certain kind of an expertise. And in this case, if the police has indeed recovered ball bearings, it tells you that was intended for a very entirely different purpose. It also tells you, and especially the fact that the kind of casing that was recovered from the spot, the manner in which it was mangled, and the kind of twists that you see in that, it also tells you that it was possibly similar to some of the other chemical explosive laced devices that we've seen in the past. This is relevant because the investigators, get a lot of information on who and what kind of expertise was used, and that becomes a critical part of the narrowing down operation. Remember, bomb investigations can be very complicated, and they can also be very painstaking. So the more detailed you look and the more widespread you look, the better your chances of things, which also means that the whole process and the whole effort has to go into narrowing down things. So these three things, and the fact that that a battery has been recovered is significant itself, because that also tells you that there is a likelihood that this was a device which carried a timer. Now, no ordinary person on the street can just put up or make up a device which has a timer attached to it as well. It requires some amount of expertise, and that's why it's a very critical piece of recovery, and I'm sure the police is looking at that very, very carefully.
Yes, let me in fact also bring in Mr. Azad on the details that we've picked up so far, Mr. Azad, the evidence that has been recovered, and how crucial it is in the initial few days to really go through the entire blast site. We had specialized teams from the NSG as well at the location today, going through literally every small little corner and piece of earth in that area today. Mr. Azad, so my question to you is, to your mind, the things that we found so far, what do they indicate, the kind of people who may be behind this?
See, first, as Mr. Tiwari has already said, the PTN explosive used is a worrisome sign, because PTN has been used by Al-Qaeda in the past. PTN was used in that Northwest flight by that, what you call, underwear bomber. 100 grams was perhaps used. Then again, used by the shoe bomber. And in 2009, there was a Saudi prince again using PTN, an attempted life attempt. Now, this shows that the Indian soil being used is again a very serious matter, and the most serious part is that it is in a high security area, and that also on a particular date, like Beating Retreat, where most of the VIPs were hardly about say 1.5 kilometers away. The third important point is that the Israeli ambassador gave a press statement today that they were expecting something, and it was kind of a worldwide alert for all the Israeli embassies. And something has happened in Paris, and also this happened here. I'm sure this must have been shared by the Israeli agencies also. So at a time of high alert in this particular area, if this has happened, this should be taken very, very seriously. Next, what I would turn to is that definitely that envelope has been received, which gives a point that maybe the Iranian elements are involved, though
Yes.
Jaish-ul, the organization is just like a bubble in water. Nobody has heard of this organization, and this could be a phraseology like talking about the Indian state, something from across the border, which keeps happening
So,
because they
Mr.
like
Azad,
to fish in troubled
hold
waters.
on to your thoughts and views as far as the letter is concerned. I am going to come to that, and I do want to hear what you have to say, your own analysis of what was written and what it could mean. But I just want to just go step by step here. And step two for us is the the route analysis, the area, how it's being surveilled now, people who are under suspicion, how the Delhi police and the investigators will be using the CCTV network, which is now obviously far more extensive and exhaustive than it's ever been in the national capital. And I just want to quickly go across to Alok, and then we will go back to our experts. Alok, we know that 2 suspects have been marked out basis the prelim investigations, and a cabbie was also interrogated who allegedly drove them around this area. Now tell our viewers all of those details about the kind of route mapping that has been done.
Around 45,000 mobiles were active. This is what the Delhi police sources have revealed us. This is what they have revealed through the basis of the dump data which they recovered. Apart from that, the CCTV, which is one of the most important component in any of the investigation, this area, this is the lane, which is around 1 kilometer of lane, and there are multiple CCTV cameras are installed over here. In some of the CCTV cameras, they have found out that 2 persons came on a car and they were walking towards the spot where the bomb was planted just a few minutes before the incident. So this is one of the angle on which the Delhi Police Special Cell is working on. The person who brought them, he was also in fact today caught by the police, and as of now he has not been given a clean sheet, but he was questioned, but nothing very much concrete the police has got from him, so that is why he has allowed to go, but he has been asked to come again if the police wants to grill that. So this is one of the aspect. Maybe that person would be Irani, as we are talking about, or anybody from outside. Who was those 2 persons? These are the 2 suspects, but there may be other persons might be involved in this act. Back to you.
Okay, so that is the other aspect that they're looking at. And of course, if I can just go back to our experts on this, and Mr. Azad, help our viewers also understand, and especially in the age of technology today, you have so much of CCTV footage to go through, but you also have the ability to do a 3D mapping, you have the ability to scan mobile location data and cabs being booked data to really put it all together and narrow down possibly to some suspects who behave in an odd manner out.
Yes, the investigations in any incident of a bomb incident like this is very, very detailed and very, very painstaking. As your correspondent has already told us, these dumb data analysis is a routine exercise. You get a lot of evidence from electronic evidence. You gain from that, from the chatter. Then, of course, you have the CCTV, which gives you images, but it also gives you a huge number of, whether by terms of identification of features, facial features, or the vehicles which you have to go through. You have the immigration data which you seek for the arrivals in the last so many months and all that, which need to be screened again. You have the 3D mapping, the recreation of the scene, which again throws up things which you may not see on the first eye. And what is disturbing, of course, is also the bomb was placed, and it was a timer device. Timer device is a sophisticated device, and maybe it was time for something which they were not able to do, or maybe that what has happened there, investigation may reveal that they tried something as a kind of a trailer because they couldn't attempt something big, being in a high security zone. Now, the CCTVs will definitely give you a picture. I'm afraid I've come to know that there was reports that the few CCTV were not working. That's really unfortunate. But at a time like this, when security was on high alert, This incident is unfortunate, but the security agencies have got a lot of data to sort of get into, and something should come out.
Vinay, I'm just sitting here and listening to what Alok was telling us, and then Mr. Azad adding to it. And to me, it looks like such an exhaustive, mind-boggling exercise. And then to join the dots from all of these verticals and then put it together to see, okay, these guys seem to be behaving in an odd fashion.
That's right, but I can tell you, if there is any police force, in India, which comes possibly is one of the best in terms of doing this painstaking work, Delhi police is possibly one of them. I can tell you that there was a specific investigation that was carried out in 1999 on a serial blast, and in those days there used to be a sequential serial blast in Delhi, which got solved by a 3-inch piece of a newspaper that was publishing only 200 copies of it. Every criminal makes a mistake, and in that particular case, the saboteurs made a mistake. They had used one particular newspaper to wrap the device which they had planted, and they made the mistake of using a newspaper which was a very local neighborhood kind of a paper. And the Delhi police actually was able to track down which newspaper it was and figured out, luckily, that there were just 250 people who received that paper. Each of those 250 people were investigated, and that's how the police finally found the real suspects. Now, it is no doubt about it that any terror, investigation is very, very detailed. The good thing is that the Delhi police has very, very good experience. And I think what has also changed in the last 8 years or so is the kind of technology that now has come in. You saw one display of that today when the police started doing a 3D mapping. Now, 3D mapping of crime spots was not something that used to happen when we were out in the field and seeing all this. Most of the maps or the layouts of the spot were done by hand. The measurement was done by hand, and there was no way of doing 3D modeling. Now, of course, software is available, and that's possible. We also have, if you saw on the visuals of it, which Alok had sent, the National Bomb Data Center team, which is a specialized unit of the National Security Guards, which also has enormous experience of figuring out IED devices, because they've pretty much analyzed every single IED explosion that has happened in India, and that information comes in extremely valuable and extremely handy in determining not just the kind of explosive device, but who and what kind of people could have been used in assembling it. So it's a multi-agency responsibility, it's a multi-agency exercise, and also it's something that's possibly one of the biggest investigations that must be currently on in Delhi. That's how it will go, and that's how it will proceed, Tanvi.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And like you very well pointed out, Vinay, if anybody can do it in an expert fashion, it will be the Delhi police force. Let me just now go to that third aspect. And the third aspect is what Mr. Azad was referring to, the letter, and what this letter says and what could it possibly mean in terms of the terror plot itself. Alok, coming to you first. One letter addressed to the Israeli ambassador was found. What do we know about the contents of this letter?
See, Tanvi, this is one of the important development that is related to this case, because this give one of the leads to the Delhi police. We are talking about that there is the possibility of some mischievous element, but this letter tells the story in different way, because this letter is addressing Israeli ambassador, first of all, and the envelope that was written to that for Israel ambassador, and in the letter there's a 1.5 page document, and in that document it was written that two persons who got martyrdom, this is what the word they have mentioned, who got martyrdom. One is general from Iran, and another is nuclear scientist from Iran. Both were killed in January and in November. That is the possibility that they wanted to take the revenge. This is the kind of thing what the Delhi police is believing right now. In 2012, when this kind of the similar kind of attack had happened on diplomat, we saw that Iranians national were allegedly involved. In fact, they were also charge sheeted. So in this case also, this is giving a lead to the Delhi police. They are working on it, and in fact, in the letter it has also written it is a trailer. Then it means that in the coming days there is the possibility that maybe some missions or some institution of Israel must be targeted, and this is one of the trailer they have showed here in the national capital. So definitely that is why the security has been beefed up all across the country. Back to you.
Yes, in fact, before I go back to our experts, I just also want to play out an excerpt of the comment we got from the Israel ambassador, Mr. Ron Malka, because Israel now clearly indicating that this is an evil attack. And they did also have some indications, intelligence inputs, which is why some amount of security had been stepped up. Yet, of course, this happened. But let's listen in.
As of now, our assumption, strong assumption, that it is a terror attack that targeted the Israeli embassy. Fortunately, as you mentioned, nobody was hurt, and all the diplomats and their families are safe.
Vinay, I want to come to you first because, till yesterday, we weren't too sure if the Israeli embassy was the direct attack, if this was a message for the Israelis or not. But the letter and even what the Israelis now seem to say does suggest that that is perhaps one of the biggest leads and angles that we're looking at.
Yes, and look, I mean, temperamentally, Israelis take every little thing very, very seriously. That's how that state is, and that's how their, their intelligence and their security responses. They do not mess around with these things, and they're very businesslike about it. So no matter how trivial or small any incident may be, they will take that very seriously. And you heard the ambassador say it very upfront and very direct, that they're treating it as a terror incident, and they believe that the embassy was the target. But having said that, there are two other reasons why I would like to believe that not only they, but the Indian establishment would also be looking at it from that point of view, which is this: the eerie similarity between what happened on the breaching retreat day and what happened in 2012. Remember, this was the exact same stretch. In fact, barely maybe 10 or 15 meters from here, where the diplomatic car belonging to one of the key diplomats of Israel posted here was targeted. And in that case, there were two youngsters riding a motorcycle who actually used a magnetic bomb. Essentially, magnetic bomb is a bomb which has a magnet attached to it, and it can be slapped on to the car. And they were seen doing that at a traffic signal. And at seconds later, that car blew up. Luckily, there were only injuries and there weren't any casualties. And also, luckily, the ambassador was not in the car. Now, that incident is exactly at the same stretch as this one. And obviously, thus parallel will be drawn. And in that investigation, the role of the Iranian, agents was clearly established. In fact, there were a couple of Indians who've been prosecuted for that as well, who are currently in jail on that issue. And of course, the investigation has pointed out how they have used some bit of local sleeper agents, which almost always exist in every part of the world, for that operation. And that's where the Delhi police's role will come in. I don't think the Delhi police will bother itself too much about, the attack, the killing of the nuclear scientists per se. That's for the, Indian intelligence agencies and Mossad and all to come and supplement it on. For the Delhi police, the specific task would be to find out who were the last mile operatives who actually carried this out. The conspiracy, of course, is a much wider issue, Tanvi.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, Mr. Azad, I did interrupt you, but there was also a point that you were making about the Iranian connection. As we know that there is a hunt already on for the visitors, the Iranian visitors living in Delhi at this moment.
You see, I was pointing out to those two martyrdom, according to the Iranian television. The most popular general Soleimani, when he was murdered, and also the nuclear scientist, Iran had clearly given pointers toward America and Israel that it will take revenge. In this case, as the letter, as one has heard only from the channels, that it talks about a trailer and it talks about taking a revenge for the deaths of those people. I would, but certainly not rule out that it could be a piece of diversion. So investigation should be wide open. Investigation should also look into the role of the ISIS. We've had a lot of activity at the behest of ISIS when they were trying to lure recruits from India to their battle stations abroad. Some of the kids came back, some of them never came back. So these are things which really need to be looked into. The Iranian factor will obviously be looked into. Now, I'm glad the the Israeli ambassador during his press conference or his press interview didn't say and didn't point his fingers toward any of the agencies or any of the rogue elements which are against the Israeli interests. Now, I am given to understand that the Israeli intelligence agencies or the security forces are also arriving here to assist in the investigation. They will, of course, have a much wider knowledge and base regarding the threats they face worldwide. Because, mind you, the ambassador also said that we were expecting something, and there was a worldwide alert, and something seems
Correct.
to have Paris also. So therefore, in that respect, I think nothing should be ruled out. You can see the claim, that laughable claim by Jaishul Hind. So these
Yes.
kind of are always there, and this will have to be kept in mind while the investigating agencies do their job.
Nothing can be ruled out at this point of time. This may be looking like the biggest of the lead and angles to focus on, but the Delhi police will have to explore all possibilities. Thank you so much, Vinay Tiwari and Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, for joining me on this special show where we help break down the evidence found so far, the way the investigation is being carried out, how exhaustive it is, and where it can be headed. We're going to keep a very close eye. Too early to speculate on anything, but the facts have been presented to you, and we will continue to do that in the coming days. This terror attack, this bomb blast, cannot be taken or brushed aside as just a mischievous attempt. It is more sinister than what appears. Thank you so much for joining us.